Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today, you are in for such a treat because, listen, the blood sugar balancing queen is back. My girl Marjan is back, but this time she's going to be talking about migraines. Menstrual migraines are something that keep coming up in my DMs. And unfortunately, I'm not an expert in all things, but I do like to link arms with other individuals, other practitioners who are experts. And Marjan is definitely one of those people when it comes to migraines. She knows it. She's dealt with them and she shares her story with us on today's episode, but also the relationship between migraines and your cycle and understanding how to be aware of your body. And of course, she shares her hot tips on how to manage it. But before we jump into the episode, I do want to let you all know that I've gone ahead and actually linked her migraine ebook down below for you all. And of course, how you can work with her one on one. So if you want to walk into 2023 not dealing with migraines anymore, make sure you stay tuned, get your hands on her ebook. And listen, I do want to just preface a few things. I have been working on something behind the scenes for quite some time. So, in addition to supporting yourself, I want you to know that something is coming out on December 22nd that you're definitely going to want to be paying attention to. No, it's not another ebook. No, it's not another course. It's something a little bit different. So make sure you stay tuned. And without further ado, let's dive right on into today's episode.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. I'm super excited to be talking about this topic, which is basically all things related to migraines and how to prevent them. I think we don't hear that often enough, that there is a way to actually start paying attention and start nourishing our bodies to prevent these really, really debilitating migraines, which I have suffered from and struggled with myself as well. But we're also going to be talking about the link between migraines and a whole slew of other symptoms that you may not have noticed as well that come along with it. So it's going to be a whole hot topic over here. And I'm really passionate about this to the point where recently I actually wrote an ebook all about this. And I'll mention it again at the end if you guys want to check that out. But basically, I will start with a little introduction. My name is Marjan. I've been on this podcast before. I'm the creator of the Blood Sugar Guide, which many of you have, which is an ebook that basically teaches you everything you need to know about blood sugar stabilization and how to eat in a way that balances your blood sugar levels for the long term, which, if you have the book, Balancing Your Blood Sugar Levels actually will ultimately help you to balance out your hormones and energy levels and mood and mental focus as well too. So that book is available for you guys as well too. And again, I know so many of you have it already, but recently I also created a second ebook, which is my migraine guide, which is kind of like a follow-up to the blood sugar guide, because there is a huge component, or a huge link, I should say, between blood sugar balance and migraines. But in this book, I specifically wanted to talk about migraines and some of the things that are maybe influencing it on a hormonal level inside of your body. But more importantly, again, how to actually prevent these migraines. If you remember from previously, or if you've heard me on this podcast before, or maybe you follow along on Instagram, but I'm a holistic health practitioner, a nutritionist, and I just love teaching people how to start listening to their bodies. All of these symptoms that we all get so frustrated by all the time, like migraines are a big one, but other symptoms such as low energy levels and mood swings and anxiety or bloating or other digestive types of issues, all of these ultimately are our body communicating something to us. And I have always been really passionate about helping people to learn what those communications actually mean, because they actually are our bodies telling us something. And ultimately, they're telling us that they need more of something, more nutrients, more rest, or more movement, or sometimes less of something. And so that's my job. Is I work one-on-one with clients from all over the world, teaching them how to listen to these cues and give their bodies ultimately nutrients that are going to help them to quiet down those symptoms, because the symptoms don't need to be there if we give our bodies what they need. So that's a little bit about me. I currently live in Montreal, but again, I work virtually with all of my clients one-on-one. And if you have my migraine guide, which actually just recently came out, you may have seen the story of what I wrote in the beginning part of it about how I got interested in this whole topic of migraines in the first place. Kind of weird to say I'm interested in migraines, but part of it is that I personally have struggled with migraines pretty much my whole life. I always say I feel like I came out of the womb and I had migraines all the time, and like the really bad ones where I just couldn't be around any light. I'd have to be like down and out for days and not nauseated and dizzy and the whole slew of things. If you struggle with migraines, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And my migraines were so bad as a kid that I couldn't even take any medication. Anytime I would take medication, I would just vomit everywhere. And so I always felt like there was just nothing that I could do about it. Fast forward to years and years later, I became a nutritionist. I studied all about blood sugar and how that imbalance in blood sugar actually can cause or can trigger migraines. And so I started playing around with that a little bit, and I started to specialize in blood sugar balance. And I noticed that for myself, I was barely ever getting any migraines once my blood sugar levels were stable. Same exact thing was happening with my clients. So I was like, okay, this is amazing, because this blood sugar stabilization is actually helping clients to prevent their migraines as well too. And so all was good. Fast forward again to this past year. I don't even know where to start with this past year. I am assuming that a lot of you have also experienced a ton of growth this past year, a ton of shifts, a lot of spiritual up leveling. There has been a lot of inner child healing that I've had to do because stuff has come to the surface this past year. So just, I feel like everything just kind of hit me at one time this year. And it was a lot. At the time, excuse me, at the time that I was going through all of these things, I started getting more and more migraines. And they were random for a period of time, but specifically, they would happen on the first day of my period, to the point where I started having people in my life tell me that. I didn't notice it actually myself, but I would get a really bad migraine, and then people in my life would say, "Oh, your period's coming today," or "I think your period's coming tomorrow." And I had never noticed it myself. And so went to the calendar, and yeah, every single time I would get a migraine, I would be on my period the next day. And so that's when I started paying attention to there being a link between these two. This isn't just random. This is my body communicating something to me. And all of my previous things about blood sugar balance, they just weren't working the same way as they used to. So that was another red flag for me, that it's not related to blood sugar balance necessarily, because I always used to be able to manage my migraines that way. Anyways, then I started doing a little bit of research, started playing around with my food. I am a nutritionist after all. So I started kind of like playing around with some things that are helping me to manage my migraines. And then, of course, in this day and age, had to take to TikTok, went on TikTok, posted a video about how it's so frustrating every time I get my period that I also have to deal with this super debilitating migraine. It was just a quick, like I don't know, 6-second TikTok video. And I kid you not, it went viral in probably like 2 hours. There was thousands, I'm not kidding you, thousands of comments and likes and views on this video and shares of people saying, yes, me too. I always get a super debilitating migraine on the first day of my period. Many people were saying that it was actually like lasting their entire period. And I can't even imagine that because my migraines were so bad on that first day that I would just have to shut out the entire world. I couldn't do anything that day. And so I can't imagine it being for 5 days, but so many people saying that they struggle with the same thing. And then, of course, as the entrepreneur that I am, and I'm so passionate about helping people learn how to listen to their bodies, I started writing a book. So this is my second book now. This is the Migraine Guide. And I wrote it because I realized in that moment that so many people struggle with the same thing. And I had kind of like figured out at that point how to start paying attention in a way that heals these migraines. So, a big thing for me was number one is that our bodies on a spiritual and emotional and mental level are always going through tons of different shifts. And so, what that means is that we can't just be eating the same way all the time. I know society kind of works on a 9 to 5 schedule and we're always doing the same thing every day. But the reality is, especially if you're a woman of menstruating age, you need to start paying attention to what's happening at each phase of your cycle. Because as a lot of you guys probably already know, because you're super connected to your cycles, there is a difference of what happens throughout that cycle. Your body is going to need more nourishment at different phases, and we have to start getting really good at paying attention to that. So that was my biggest learning in all of this, was learning how to pay attention throughout the cycle, not just blood sugar in general. So that's something that I write about in the book. And the main tip that I give is that if you're not tracking your cycle, so i.e., if you were like me, when other people had to tell me that, oh, yeah, your migraines are linked to the first day of your period, don't be like me. Track your cycle because, as again, you guys know, you do need to start learning how to eat in a way that's in accordance with the cycle. But even more importantly than that is during the actual menstrual phase or a couple of days before, our bodies are doing so much work. So much work. I mean, like ultimately, our bodies are shedding actual layers of skin. So that's a lot. So if you're already the type of person that hasn't been focusing on blood sugar balance and you've been kind of like able to get away with it, you won't be able to get away with it on the first day of your period if you're someone like me that's very migraine prone, because our bodies are already doing so much work and they're already not getting the amount of nutrients that they need. So that's a big one that I always mention to clients, but that's a big one in the book as well too, is learning how to track your cycle and starting to learn how to eat more ultimately for each phase of your cycle. Another thing that I mentioned in the book when it comes to cycles is we want to start looking at other elements, not just our food intake. I always say this, but I think our bodies are so absolutely intelligent. They are already telling us what they need in order to thrive. We just have to learn how to listen in the right way. And so in the book, one of the things that I do and one of the things that I teach you how to do is how to track your cycle based on your energy levels, based on your cravings, based on your mood, and based on your hunger levels. These things are all telling us something about what the body needs. And so that's something that we could all stand to start paying attention to and giving ourselves basically what our bodies are asking for. And the best thing is that those things are really, really easy to pay attention to. Energy levels, that's something really easy to start tracking. Hunger, that's a big one. And that's all I want to say is like the biggest one that really helps us to kind of balance out our blood sugar levels. Because if you're hungry, then that's an indication that you need more nutrients, right? And so, again, in the book, I really help to break it down for you guys so that you can start paying attention to your cycle and really learning what your body is trying to communicate to you. So that has been a huge learning for me. The other aspect is that a lot of us don't realize that with these migraines come other symptoms as well. And again, I didn't pay attention to all of this stuff. I just thought, oh, these migraines are so random. I just keep getting random migraines. But once I started looking at it from this other perspective, from the perspective of breaking it down into the different sections of my cycle, and also the other symptoms that were presenting themselves, such as shorter menstrual cycles. Sometimes I was getting 2 periods in the same month. I know a lot of you guys probably struggle with that as well too, because that's a very common symptom when it comes to these types of migraines. And I was feeling bloated a lot. I was having a lot of digestive issues, lower energy levels that I was used to, and a lot of just anxiety for no reason. All of these symptoms just kind of seemed super random until I started to really lean in and pay attention. All of these symptoms are an indication that my cortisol levels were running way too high. And if you have the book or if you follow me on Instagram, or maybe you already know this, that cortisol is our stress hormone. We do not want our stress hormone to be running super high, because if it's running really high, pretty much the body basically thinks that we're in fight or flight mode. Fight or flight mode refers to the example. I don't know if maybe you guys heard this in your high school science classes. Maybe I remember learning about this a little bit, but basically it refers to if a bear or some animal was about to attack you, you would either get the energy somehow to fight the bear, or you would do something to run away from the bear. So that's where the expression fight or flight comes from when we're stressed. What happens in our basically go, go, go society, and in the society that thrives off of 9 to 5, and again, women of menstruating age do not necessarily thrive on 9 to 5. And when we're constantly trying to kind of like fit into that mold and do things the exact same way every single day, and pretty much kind of like going against the grain of what our bodies actually need, what happens is that it creates a lot of stress on the inside. And that stress on the inside is basically kind of like our bodies telling us constantly that we're on the attack. Our bodies think that we are being attacked. We do not want to live that way. We don't want to live in a way where our bodies feel like it's being attacked all the time. The reason is that when our bodies feel like there's going to be an attack, our bodies respond to that. Again, our bodies are super intelligent. And so what that means is that our body will shut off certain systems that are not quote unquote essential. So that includes our digestive system. If a bear was attacking us right now, we don't need a digestive system, right? So the body would shut that down. It would shut down also other things that are not related. Hormonal balance, that's not really related to attacking a bear, right? And so the body would shut that down. And so it would keep shutting down all of these non-essential things so that we can really have the energy to deal with whatever's attacking us. Unfortunately, because of the way that we have, I guess, kind of like not paid attention to our bodies and not paid attention to the flow of things, and we're just kind of like go, go, go all the time, what's happened is that our bodies basically feel like they are on the attack all the time. So it's not just oh, this is a thing that's reserved for when a bear attacks me. Our bodies, a lot of us, are running on this fight or flight mode all the time. And so that's where the rest of those symptoms come from. The digestive issues and the hormonal imbalances that cause two periods in the same month or irregular periods. These are all an indication that our bodies are running on high cortisol mode. And so in my new guide, what I've done is broken things down for you in that way as well too. Obviously, there's a lifestyle component to high cortisol levels, but there is also a way to start eating in a way that helps to support your systems through stressful times. An example that somebody used with me recently, I was telling them about this whole thing about how this past year has been really hard for me, and it's just been so stressful, and I feel like I've been doing so much spiritual growth and stretching and all of this stuff. And she said, it's kind of like how athletes have to eat, right? It's like athletes have to eat according to what phase they're in their growth, kind of, right? Like physical wise. And it's the same with us, right? Because we're holistic beings. If one area of our bodies, like our emotional side or our spiritual side, is going through a massive growth, we need to start learning how to eat for our physical bodies to be able to kind of keep up with that. And really, what I believe is that these migraines and bloating and irregular periods and all of these things are basically our body telling us that, hey, the physical body doesn't have enough nutrients to keep up with these like big things and big shifts that are happening in other areas of your life. So I think that that is kind of like the overarching theme of this migraine guide. But I also want to bring your attention to some questions, some common questions that I get from people, a lot of people who struggle with these migraines as well too. One of the things that I mentioned in the book is that we need to, again, start paying attention to our cycles and eating in accordance with our cycles. One of the big things that I think is not supporting our cycles is fasting all the time. And by that, I mean that if you're the type of person that is skipping breakfast and basically not eating all day and kind of just running on a few coffees a day, I am willing to bet that you also have a lot of these symptoms that we just mentioned. So migraines and irregular periods and anxiety and mood swings and bloating, digestive issues. Again, this system or this way of kind of like treating every single day as the exact same, eating the exact same, moving the exact same, is not necessarily beneficial to our female cycles and the way that we thrive. And so if you are the type of person that's fasting throughout the day and basically only eating one meal, you're likely also experiencing a lot of these symptoms. So that's a good place to start paying attention. Instead of fasting, I always recommend start actually paying attention to your hunger cues. Eat when you're hungry because your body is telling you literally, I need more nutrients. And when it doesn't get that, that's when we get those migraines, right? Or that's where we get those other symptoms. So a big question that I always get whenever I explain it that way is, well, I can't eat breakfast. I just wake up in the mornings and I have no appetite. I can't eat anything. Totally fair. I totally get it. I think also this relates to us as a society being in fight or flight mode. So if you're that type of person that wakes up and you just can't eat because you have no appetite, something I would suggest doing is really start slowing down your pace in life, especially in the mornings. You definitely don't want to be waking up thinking that a bear is attacking you. I think that's a lot of where we lose our appetite in the mornings because we're waking up with this sense of like anxiety, right? And so, again, if we have that fight or flight mode going all the time, then our body shuts down our appetite and our digestive system because it's not essential in terms of fighting a bear. So, if that's you, if you're the type of person that's like, I just can't do it, I can't eat breakfast, I would really recommend just kind of like leaving some time in the mornings to just sit with yourself, sit with your emotions. If you have time to do a little meditation, that might be something as well too, but really just slowing down your routine. Another thing that helps me is starting my day with a warm water and a little squeeze of lemon juice. That lemon juice kind of gets the saliva going, gets digestive juices flowing. And typically, I'll find that if I didn't have an appetite before, I usually have an appetite afterwards because, again, it's getting those digestive juices flowing and ready for you to digest your breakfast. So that might be something to consider. There is a lot of questions that people ask me, and now I'm just trying to think what are some common ones. So I already went through if you're fasting, I would skip doing that. I would start your day with a good solid breakfast. Another big one I just remembered is a lot of people are basically starting their day with a coffee and then nothing for a period of time. And then maybe even having a second coffee later in the afternoon and maybe like a quick snack or a lunch or something, and then dinner in the evening. We don't want to be doing that, if especially if you have these migraines and issues with hormonal imbalance or high cortisol levels or symptoms that are related to high cortisol levels. Because coffee, as great as it is, I love coffee myself. I think Berri actually is not as big of a coffee drinker, if I remember correctly, but I am. I'm a big coffee drinker. I love it. But we need to remember that coffee is not a nutrient. I hate saying that, but it's true. Coffee is not a nutrient. So, what that means is that when our bodies are screaming at us with these symptoms saying, I need more nutrients so that I can balance hormones and get rid of these high cortisol levels so that I can not have a migraine every month. When our bodies are screaming that at us, dumping coffee into our system is doing nothing. It's not helping us in any way, literally, right? And so, what you want to do first and foremost is just do a little quick check with yourself. Next time you're about to grab a coffee, do a quick little check. When was the last time I had an actual meal? And that brings me to the second point that I just remembered is you want to actually start having at least 3 meals in a day. Again, I am specifically talking to the people who get migraines, bloating all the time, anxiety, mood swings. These types of symptoms are telling us that your body is in high stress mode. So when I'm saying that you should be eating at least 3 meals a day, I'm specifically talking to those people because there's a big link between your lack of nutrients and these symptoms that are showing up for you. So I'm not just kind of like blanket statementing like everyone's diet should be like this. Always listen to your body, always listen to your own hunger cues. But again, if you're experiencing these symptoms that are so related to high cortisol levels, you might want to consider actually having more meals in the day and skip this whole like fasting trend, I guess, that's happening right now. If you need help with blood sugar balance, as I mentioned in the beginning, I did write a guide all about that. But basically, you want to make sure that your meals are a protein source, a fat source, a good healthy fat source, and lots of fiber. Those three components really, really help to balance blood sugar levels out for the long term. But again, if you need a little bit of extra help with that, my blood sugar guide explains it all. So that's available for you as well. And I would love it if you guys who are struggling with these migraines would want to check out my new guide. Again, it's called the Migraine Guide, and it basically is the full protocol of what I would be giving to a client when I work with them one on one. And by the way, not only have I seen so much success personally with my own protocol, but my clients can speak to it as well too. And I just think that ultimately it comes down to us learning how to pay attention to the cues that our body is already giving us. Our bodies are so smart. They're already telling us what we need. And so with my guide, I'm really just helping you to learn how to tune in a little bit more and also give you some recipe ideas to get you kickstarted in a way that's going to help you to prevent these migraines for the long term. So I hope that you guys check that out. It's on my website, www. Oh my gosh, it's just healthybymarjan.com. I can't believe I screwed up my own website address in this podcast episode. Just ignore that. No big deal. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's also Healthy by Marjan. And definitely feel free to reach out. I always say this: when you have my guide, we are connected in some way. And so what that means is that you can email me or you can DM me on Instagram and just let me know your thoughts. Or if something is confusing to you and you don't understand a component of it, I'm always here to help you guys because I am so passionate about this, because I know what it feels like, because I have been there literally myself just a mere 6 months ago. So I totally get it. And I'm here to help any way I can. I've also written in the back of this guide that if you have the guide, hopefully you're a self-paced person. You're the type of person that kind of likes to figure things out on your own. That's what the guide is really meant for. But if you change your mind, there's a little note on the back to remind you that the price of this guide comes off of your one-on-ones with me. So if you ever decide anytime in the future that, you know what, I thought I was going to do this self-paced, but I feel like I need a little bit of extra coaching and I need extra support, that's what I'm here for. I work one-on-one with clients from all over the world. It is virtual. So if you need any extra support, the price of your guide will come off of the one-on-ones as well too. So you never have to worry about paying twice, kind of. Anyways, I had so much fun talking to all of you about this. That was just kind of like a little brief summary of what you'll find in my migraine guide. And hopefully some of you will get it and benefit from it as well.
Okay, friends, I so hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know it's a little bit different for me as well as for you because you're probably used to hearing me talk a lot or interviewing people, but I really just wanted to let Marjan free flow and just talk from her heart to you all about navigating migraines, how you can begin to manage it. So, with that being said, I do want to remind you that you can head to the show notes, grab her migraine ebook because honestly, it is incredible. But also make sure you stay tuned for December 22nd. If you're not following me on Instagram, if you're not following me on TikTok, sis, I need you to get into it immediately because what is coming has been loading for a hot minute. I'm not even gonna front. She's been loading for a hot minute, and I feel as if you all are gonna really appreciate it. As always, I am sending you big love and flowy vibes, and I'll talk with you soon.